Nevada, in the northern kingdoms, founding, there was never a chance that the Jews could go to Yerushalayim.
Which was how long?
Egel Azab, what?
Which was how long?
About 300 years. And finally, Moshe and Ella lets them go. It was the day that the dead of Beitar were allowed to be buried. And which bracha is instituted because of that? Listen carefully. Hatov v'hamet. It's not for naught that the bracha of Tov arises out of an event that happened on Tu B'Av, on the 15th of Av, which is a very joyous day. Now you would think, you look at the things that happen on this very joyous day. The Gemara says Binyamin was reclaimed into the tribes. There were only 400 men of Binyamin left because they did this horrific act of Pilegesh Begiva, that they violated this woman, this poor Pilegesh, and her dead body was distributed throughout all the tribes to say that the Binyaminites are behaving in such a way that is not acceptable to be part of a Shevet and Klal Yisrael. Let's get rid of them. 400 remain, and these 400 were allowed to marry. Now this was the reverse Sedi Hawkins day, that they could not withhold the people from Binyamin from taking wives. They literally snatched wives. They snatched them. And therefore there was a Shevet of Binyamin. Okay? And it was also the day that the dead of the Midbar stopped dying. Now what does that mean? There were 600,000 people who were destined and doomed to die. Correct? How many of them actually survived? Well, if you think about it, 600,000 divided by 40 years means every year 15,000 would die. Okay? 15,000 would perish. How did they do it? So Chazal tell us they would dig a grave, lay down in the grave, and every year 15,000 didn't get up. Now you get to the last year, the last summer of Moshe Rabbeinu. Okay? Where all of a sudden Moshe Rabbeinu starts davening. He says, "Ata hachilosa," right? You're starting to daven to Hashem all these davenings. Ata hachilosa laharos es abdecha es gadlecha. You're starting to show me all your greatness and your goodness and your chesed and judgment. Excuse me. Moshe Rabbeinu saw all of these things. When Hashem forgave the ego, when Hashem allowed Klal Yisrael to survive after the Meraglim, what new happened here that Moshe in his last summer saw something that he never saw before?
The war that you said with Sichon and Og, that was the...
Which takes place in Elul, 2 weeks after Tu B'Av. What happened on Tu B'Av? 15,000 people survived. The last 15,000, and they might have probably made them a big farewell party. So they're not getting up, right? It was promised by Hashem that this generation will not go into Eretz Yisrael. There's no possible exception, except somehow the last 15,000 were forgiven and survived. Okay?
They were above the age of 20.
Yeah, they were part of the 600,000 that were destined to die. Upon them is a death sentence, sealed. No. Yeah, I'm going to go one step further. Who were these 15,000 people? We only have 3 tribes mentioned in that whole parsha. They are Avaschana, which is Shabbos Nachman, Reuven, Gad, and Menashe. Why? They would be the ones that would be the beneficiaries of the Elul war. Okay? It is not unlikely, seeing the juxtaposition of the events, that the 15,000 were from those 3 tribes. This is my thought, just by virtue of the simple association. You look around. In the Torah, when you don't find anything open, you look for a connection. You look what's nearby. What's a mamatzina? We found this here, found this there, a connection. Well, there's a connection to those 3 tribes in Parshas Vayechanan. And I would suggest 15,000, 6,000 from Reuven, 6,000 from God, but only how many from Menashe? 3,000. Yeah, because they're only half. That's 15,000 right there. And they are now going to be doing what? Instead of dying in the midbar, where are they going? Was there a gzeira on them that they should not go, no matter what? Yes. Are they going anyway? Yes. Not only that, but are they getting a portion in Eretz Yisrael, and Moshe's the one who distributed those portions? Do you understand now why Moshe started to die? Why Moshe saw something he never saw before. He saw Hashem forgive the generation of the Midbar for the chet of the Meraglim. He says, listen, if you could forgive these 15,000 people, why can't you forgive me?
But those 15,000 spent 40 times expecting to maybe die.
Correct. Yeah. And we don't really know. We can imagine their experience. And you know, why Tu B'Av? Because really, when did they die? Everybody died on Tisha B'Av, because it was because of the sin of Meraglim. But these guys made their beds, made their graves on Tisha B'Av. Get up the next morning, when you're up, not dead yet. Maybe it's a mistake, maybe the moon is off. Go back into the grave the next night. Next night, until it's a full moon. Once it's a full moon, we know it cannot be Tisha B'Av. Okay? That's why if you want to think about it, there's something called the week of Tisha B'Av. Shabbat Shechal Bo Tisha B'Av. Right? There's also Shabbat Shechal Bo Tu B'Av. Because if you think about it, Tisha B'Av will always be no more than 6 days from the 15th of Av. Flipping from the Ra over to the Tov. Where's the station in which things flip back? Where the light opens, Tu B'Av. And my Moshe Rabbeinu says, I said, you're showing me things, Hashem, that I never ever thought could be possible. I never in my life dreamed that these 15,000 would survive. So now all bets are off. And guess what? I'm going to war. Moshe Rabbeinu 2 weeks later goes to war and starts giving out Eretz Yisrael and says, I want to finish the job. I started the job. I want to finish the job. Now it's not just that. These tribes, what was the deal that they made with Moshe? That they're going to send Halutzim and lead the charge. It could very well be that those 15,000 people were part of the group that led the charge. And boy, wouldn't they be great people to have around? Because you're looking at these people and going, oh my goodness, Hashem gave them life. And they're getting into Eretz Yisrael. What inspiration to fight. I mean, they overcame death for 40 years. So maybe we'll be successful in Eretz Yisrael too. Couldn't be anybody better than them to lead the charge. Moshe Rabbeinu says, well, what about me? How about me? And the reason why he was denied was not because he was wrong, but because if Moshe goes, then they'll be ultimately successful, and that would be the end of Jewish history right there. But unfortunately, the Jewish souls had a long way to go before we could even build a Beit HaMikdash. 480 years of being in Eretz Yisrael before they even got the Beit HaMikdash together. You understand? It wasn't going to happen right away. It wasn't quite the time. So, therefore, one can understand Moshe's last Elul.
Can you explain Romans lessons
The Sfarim say because he is the final Mashiach. And it's really a continuation of Adam HaRishon. The finishing of the fixing of the problem of Tov Ra. When Moshe Rabbeinu's born, what is that house filled with? Or. And what did they say about the boy? That he was Tov. He had the Or, the hidden Or, the Or HaGanuz. That's what Mashiach has. The organos is the light of Torah that's on the most profound and deepest level, scope beyond which nobody has, except Moshe, who's on that level. So he thought that maybe he could pull off another Elul miracle, another Elul comeback. Just like in his first Elul in the Midbar, he got the Jews back the Luchos. He got the marriage of the Jewish people back together. The Isha, the bride, who is Klal Yisrael, who is the Shekhinah, is now prepared to really get married. So maybe in the last Elul, we can do it too. And that's what's really going on. So clearly the Sfarim say that Moshe's prayers, not only in the beginning, but especially at the end of his life in Elul, those last prayers, those last 515 prayers, notice the 515, it's like 1515. The 15, the Tubah. So back to Tubah for a second. So it's a day where all of the limitations between the unity of Klal Yisrael break down. Everybody can go to the Beit HaMikdash. Everybody can get married. And don't be fooled by things that look good but are not necessarily good. Because what would they used to do? Women would say things like, don't look at wealth or position or family. Look at, it's actually so good. Okay. Benos Yisrael Yotzes v'cholos b'krumim. They would go out and dance in the vineyard. So it must have been a vineyard. Mi she'ein lo isha nifna l'sham. You're missing a wife, you go. Matzah isha, matzah tov. I'm going to find my tov. Miuchasel shebehen hayu omros. The distinguished among them would say, don't look at, he said, look at my yichus. The yefeifiel shebehem, the attractive ones would say, look at my beauty. Okay? Now, you would ask, as the Gemara says, Tana Rabbanan, yefeifios amros, that look at my beauty. Tenu einechem liyofi, she'ein isha liyofi. The greatest thing about a wife is to have a beautiful wife. They would say, it's great to marry into a great family. If you want to, it's about, yichus. And we go around saying, my kid is an angel, this is great tzaddik, son-in-law of so-and-so. What does that mean? Yeah, let's say homely. Get married because it's a mitzvah. But give us lots of money. Because once you give us lots of money, we're going to make ourselves look much more beautiful. Of course, doesn't mean that they're physical features. It just means that they grew up in poverty. So now, and the last piece of this Gemara is how the tzaddikim will sit in a circle, and complete unity of the tzaddikim. So now, 1 second. So what's really going on over here? The man who has to confront the shidduch for his wife, he says, look, I could consider, on the one hand, there's beauty. On the other hand, there's family. On the other hand, there's just the mitzvah. The truth is, it's 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. There's not one perfect shidduch. Get it? There's not a perfect shidduch. You're fixated on money. That's not the shidduch. Fixated on family, it's really kind of all the same. The Nos Yisrael are essentially good, get married, and be part of Klal Yisrael. The end of Parshas Re'eh, which gives the cycle of the Yom Tovim, speaks only about one aspect of the Yom Tov, which is Simcha. Okay, and Tov Levav. How do you make everybody happy? Well, very simple. The Pasuk says, at the very end, Ish kematnat yado kevirkas Adonai Elohecha asher nasalah. Give as spread the wealth. Okay, who's going to be part of your table? Yivarechecha Hashem Elokecha b'chol tzvoscha. Hashem's going to give you parnasa. U'b'chol ma'aseh yadecha v'yisa ach sameach. You're going to be very happy, and you're going to make other people happy. Here's where it says v'samachta b'chagecha hu ata uvincha uvitecha ve'avdecha ve'amascha ve'halevi ve'hager ve'hayosam ve'almona asher b'sharech. Okay, so there is this aspect of the re'eh, of tov, see everybody as good. You're not better than them. They're just as good as you, and therefore, on some level, Klal Yisrael has to view themselves as all one entity of tov. That's the Yom Tovim of Re'eh. Re'eh speaks about Yom Tov as the Shalosh Regalim, where there's a unity and equanimity between Klal Yisrael. Yeah, we'll talk about the Karbonos later, but right now, just talk about the fact that Klal Yisrael is all like those ladies dancing in the Kramim, sharing their dresses, saying, I've got this Mila, you've got that Mila, but after all is said and done, we're Benos Yisrael, and it's all Tov.
That word Tov is mentioned more in this Parsha than any other Parsha.
Thank you. That's the cherry on top. So, the Kitzur, the women have a special job in Chodesh Elul. It's their return to clarity. Return to clarity starts with the women, because that's where it started. The obfuscation of Tov started with women, so the process reverses itself through the women. That's why B'schus Nashim Tzidkanios were Nigal. Men are basically stumbling around in the dark. And I just have to editorialize, I was in America for 2 weeks. And I think that there's a lot of blindness. And it's very blinding, especially in the area of money and parnasa and comfort, and the connections to the virtual reality, which is artificial light, not real light. And they don't see it. They're not in the perspective of that there's anything beyond that. Yisrael is very, very nice, but the main focus is shidduchim, parnasa, making money, buying big houses, getting our needs met in a personal sense. Mashiach will come, fine. There's not a sense of, we have Eretz Yisrael, this is Eretz Chemda, Tova, change your perspective, open up. And it's interesting because most of the kids that come to get inspired in Tova come in Elul, right? Elul is the time where everybody runs to Eretz Yisrael to learn in yeshiva, even guys at work. So that Elul is a time when the perspective changes. Last thing, maybe a little bit of a joke. Elul is Aleph Lul. Do you know what a lul is? A lul is a chicken coop. You can learn a lot from a chicken coop, right? First of all, everybody's together. Second of all, everybody's productive. Every day, we have chickens. We have neighbors that took in chickens. And my wife says there are chickens on our door. We open in the morning, there's chickens. And she couldn't handle it, so she got one of the neighbors to take the chickens. The guy eats scrambled eggs every morning.
Fresh eggs.
Chickens produce, okay? They really produce when they're together. But there's always that fox around the outside trying to get in. And there's the big farmer, Hashem, who wants us to be productive and wants us to sing like they sing. When the light comes, they see light. They said, you know what, Aleph Lul. Put all these people together in a yeshiva. Come together in classes. You come together in shuls. You're packed in like chickens. And that's when something comes out. We find ourselves in a lul of kedusha. You know what they say, where Mashiach's soul is in Gan Eden? It's in a place called Kan Tzipor, the bird nest. The bird nest is, according to Zohar, the section of Gan Eden where the soul of Mashiach reigns. So maybe Aleph Lul is a remez. That's it, that is